Hello everybody, I'm Nire and welcome to day 4 of Bookmas. In today's video, we're going to be setting up my 2026 reading journal. I'm so excited for this because I've always wanted to make a reading journal, and I have in the past made like a digital version of it, but it's just not the same thing as having a physical journal. So that is what we're going to be doing today. In this video, we're just going to be working on the monthly/yearly pages, the month by month pages. So like the monthly pages, I'm going to be making throughout the year. So just as of right now, we're just going to have, like I said, the yearly pages or the yearly spreads. We'll see how it's going to turn out. I've already sketched some things out and I do like how they're looking, but until like I actually go in with like my markers and my fine liners and my stickers, we will not know how exactly it would look like. But I'm just like really excited to dive into it. So let's go ahead and get started setting up my 2026 reading journal. All right, so we're actually starting off right after I'm done setting up my cover page and my reading goal page, which is the first spread, because even though I did film it, for some reason it was just such bad quality that I could not use it. So we are starting here. However, the cover page and the reading goal page are pretty simple, so you didn't miss anything. Plus, you're going to be seeing my cover at the end when we do the flip through, so I apologize for that, but you will get to see it later. All right, so we're moving on to the yearly stats page. So in this spread, I made a table where I'm going to be keeping track of a few different stats. So for example, I want to track the amount of books that I read, the amount of pages, if the books that I read were ebooks, physical, or audiobooks, so the format of them. Also, I do want to track how many books I read from Libby each month, because I definitely want to start borrowing a lot more books from Libby. So I definitely have to make that a priority for 2026. So I decided to incorporate it in my yearly stats. And then I also want to track how many 5 stars I have for each month. And then finally, I'm also tracking my average rating. I just find the average rating to be so interesting. Sometimes I feel like I'm having like the greatest rating month, and then I check my average rating and it's lower than I would think. And then the same thing happens sometimes where I'm like, oh, I barely read anything, or I barely read anything that I like, and I check and then suddenly my average rating is like pretty good. All right, so it looks like we're moving on to my reading log, which is my next spread. This video has been all over the place. I apologize. This is my first time filming like this, so I definitely have to get the hang of it. But yeah, here we have my reading log page. So just as the name suggests, I'm going to be logging every single book that I read. So I'm going to be tracking the number of the book. So if it was my first, my second, my third book that I read during the year, the book and the author, the format, again, if it's audiobook, physical, or ebook, the amount of pages, and then the rating. And that is basically my reading log. These are not the only 2 pages of my reading log. I do have more. I did not outline them or anything because I will do that throughout the year as I need them. So far we only have these first 2 pages of my reading log fully done. All right, so we're moving on to the genre tracker. So in here, I'm only going to track fantasy, romance, thriller, horror, and fiction, because those are usually my top genres anyways. And so the right side of this spread, I have my favorite books. So for every single month, I'm going to be choosing a favorite book, and I'm going to be printing out the cover and putting it in this section. This is sometimes not the easiest task to do, because sometimes I just don't know what my favorite book of the month was, or sometimes I just don't have a favorite book because I did not have the greatest reading month. But I'm very hopeful that in 2026, we're going to be reading some great books, and I'm actually going to be having trouble choosing between my favorite book. Over here in the genre tracker, I basically just have a bunch of little squares that I'm just going to fill in, and we'll see which ones are most filled by the end of the year. And you know, it gives me an idea of how many books I read from each genre. All right, so now I'm just going to put in the finishing touches, just a little pop of color here and there. And then, of course, putting down some stickers. And then we have the last two spreads, which are my 12 in 2026 and my A to C challenge. So first of all, you might have already noticed that I actually don't have 12 spaces in my 12 in 2026 spread. I will figure it out in a little bit. I will fix it. Don't worry. I will fix it. I ended up adding a little like tab thing where I put the other 3 books that I had left. So don't worry. You'll see that later. And then for the right side of the page, I have the ATC challenge, which is this challenge that pretty much every single reader does, where you try and read a book for every single letter of the alphabet. I have attempted this challenge before and I have never been able to complete it, but we'll see if in 2026 we'll be able to. But I'm not going to take it too seriously. You know, I'm just going to read whatever I want and I will just complete it while I read. I'm not going to be reading thinking about the challenge. I'm just going to, you know, read whatever I want, and if I have a book that, you know, correlates with a letter, I'm just going to fill it in. All right, so here I am taking out a page from the center of the book and using it to fix my mistake so we could actually have 12 spaces in the spread. I just glued in this little tab, this little extra thing, and put it on top of the last row, and we'll just have like a little flap. All right, so that is it for my reading journal setup. Here is the final flip through. Here is the cover that I was talking about that I was not able to show you at the beginning. It is very simple, but I really like it. It is very cute. And then here we have my reading goal area, also turned out really nice. I really did like how everything turned out. Then we have my reading stats, which you also weren't able to see fully decorated. And then here we have my reading log. Then we have my genre tracker, my favorite books, my 12 in 2026, and my A to C challenge, and the little extra flap that I had to make to fix my mistake. And that is it for my reading journal for 2026. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and turn on your bell notifications if you want to get notified whenever I upload my next Bookmas video. And I'll see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day 5.